go.
Welcome to NYCBD with Jeffrey Hill on 710 WOR.
Welcome. I'm Jeffrey Hill, your host right here on 710 WOR Radio in New York City. With me is my producer, the Flipsinator.
How about them Patriots?
Oh, yeah. I figured sooner or later.
How about them?
16 weeks in, you couldn't do that, but now you finally found a home.
Exactly.
I say well done. 14-13 at the half, right? I was completely confident that they were going to score again.
I mean, yes, you should have been.
They did not, however.
No.
My father, 89 years old, basically took him 3 days to recover. All right? So whenever the Patriots win, he gets younger. Whenever they lose, he ages, which is kind of a shame. All right. Anyway, it's the second week of the new year. We're loaded with optimism and excitement, aren't we, Flips?
Yes, except Patriot fans.
Well, they're excited about what's going to happen next year and whether or not Mr. Brady is going to return.
It's going to be an interesting offseason.
It is going to be just that. All right, let's tell the folks how they can find us. We're available right here every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. on 710 WOR in New York City. Then the show becomes available as a podcast on the iHeartRadio app, iTunes, and Spotify. Just search NYCBD Official. The show was also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And, of course, we are shooting the show live for you on our YouTube channel. All can be found on NYCBD Official. All right, let's tell the folks about the 4 segments of our show. The first segment is called Cannabis in the TriState +1. And, of course, the +1 is Massachusetts, where I will update you on key cannabis issues in all 4 states. The second segment is called Stunning and Amazing Facts, what I consider to be the most relevant issues and opportunities in the space since last week. Each segment is called
It's a stunner.
Stunner. Should we change that? I think
No,
Stunner's good,
not.
though. Stunner's good, right?
Stunner's
good.
perfect.
But you're getting it right every time. I can't trip you up anymore.
Well, normally, I mean, Jay would have got it too. But
Well, we haven't even told the crowd that Jay is
we
here.
need some new people.
We're keeping Jay as the hidden weapon here.
That's fine.
All right, very good. Our third segment is today's guest. We're excited to announce the launch of an entirely new brand that I've been working on for well over a year. Something the category has never seen before, a brand and service that truly leverages what I'm calling the power of plants to make a real difference in your personal wellness. I've named Jay Contessa, who's sitting right here with me and has been on the show a couple of times. So you've all met him before. He is going to be basically running the sales and what we call the ambassador effort. More about that later. Recall, Jay worked with Unilever for over 30 years and is an expert on the sales and marketing of personal care products. I couldn't think of a better guy to have working with me on the team.
Yeah, congrats, Jay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so
Exciting.
Jay, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, very exciting. And so we're going to spend a little bit of time with Jay as we go, and we might even ask him a question along the way. All right, lastly, we will end the show with the 4th segment called Your Messages, providing answers to the most interesting direct messages we received following last week's show. We'll be back with our first segment, Cannabis in the Tri-State +1, right after this.
Are you waking up the day after a workout, tennis match, or even a long walk just feeling it? Introducing CBDeliveryNY.com to help you live the life you know you can. They carry superior CBD made from the highest quality hemp, grown and harvested under the strictest regulations. Their sales force, certified trainers, physical therapists, and yoga teachers, all of whom have gone through rigorous education, helping them to understand what the power of plants can do for your overall wellness. So start 2020 off right. Try one of their New Year's product bundles. Go to CBDeliveryNY.com. That's CBDeliveryNY.com to find out what the power of plants can do for you.
Welcome back to NYCBD with Jeffrey Hill. Don't forget, I write a blog quite often at medium.com/@JeffreyHill2. That's medium.com/@JeffreyHill2. Take a look. I take the issues and I go into a little bit more depth. I think you might enjoy it. All right, before we get to the first segment of our show, Cannabis in the Tri-State +1, let's review some of the predictions we made at the very early part of our show about 35 weeks ago. All right? Prediction number 1, there won't be huge changes to federal cannabis law in 2019. Verdict? True. The Democrat-controlled U.S. House in September did pass a bill that would let banks and other financial institutions work with licensed cannabis operators, and a key House committee passed a comprehensive marijuana legalization bill in November. Major milestones in the decades-long effort to reform federal drug laws. But the absence of a push from the White House, where President Trump recently confused everyone on his view of protections for state medical marijuana programs. The Senate seems as unlikely as ever to take up such bills, much less approve them. As I said towards the end of last year, a divided and distracted Congress will have bigger priorities than marijuana reform, flips, I guess, impeachment, and now war with Iran, Trump's cannabis. What do you think?
Yeah, I think cannabis won't be talked about for a little while.
Yeah, Jay, thoughts on that?
No thoughts.
All right, prediction number 2. I said the sports industry would open up its cannabis rules since most of their players are using product for pain, inflammation management, recovery, and sleep. All right, verdict, true. The NHL was the first to have a lenient policy on cannabis use, and now MLB, Major League Baseball, has followed suit and taken it off the list of drugs that are tested for. This trend is likely to continue as WADA, the World Athletic Doping Association, has recommended that all pro and amateur sports change their testing guidelines to look for same-day use only. More and more athletes are coming forward explaining the positive results they are experiencing, so I anticipate this trend will continue. All right, our third prediction said New Jersey will still be arresting people for cannabis-only offenses until the law is formally changed in that state. Verdict? True. New Jersey, which plans to go to a referendum on making cannabis legal for adult use, is still arresting over 100 people per day for cannabis-only offenses. Why? Maybe because the police have a quota in all states, and a big part of that quota is filled by cannabis-only offenders. So until such time as these quotas are changed, the men and women in blue will be arresting folks until they are told, quote, it no longer counts, close quote. It's their job, after all, and I think we would all do the same in their position, so let's hope those quotas change. Prediction number 4... we said safe banking in the States' Rights Act will not be passed in 2019. Verdict? Unfortunately, that's true. While the House has passed the SAFE Act, that's the Secure and Fair Banking Enforcement Act, proposed by Congressman Perlmutter, Democrat from Colorado, the Senate received the bill on September 26th of 19. It was read twice on the floor and referred to the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. The House bill had 206 co-sponsors, the Senate bill 33, not enough. And what of the States' Rights Act, which is a bipartisan group of lawmakers that have introduced a bill that would shield people complying with state marijuana laws from federal intervention, effectively leaving it up to states to decide their own marijuana laws and regulations? Well, that seems reasonable, right? Let's let the states decide. Well, Trump, who previously expressed support for the bill, now appears to unfortunately be pulling back. The Senate version of the measure has a bipartisan list of high-profile co-sponsors, including Republican Senators Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Rand Paul from Kentucky, as well as Democratic presidential candidate Senator Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. Unfortunately, I'm not optimistic. Fifth prediction was the FDA will continue to have pressure put on it by other countries who are further ahead in understanding the medicinal value of cannabis. Verdict? Partially true. The first cannabis-related drug, Epidiolex, was approved for an orphan form of epilepsy called Dravet syndrome in June of 18. The agency also has approved synthetic THC drugs called Marinol and Syndrose for treatment of anorexia associated with weight loss in AIDS patients. I expect more to follow as Israel, Canada, and even the UK have firms with many cannabis-based drugs that are being reviewed by their version of the FDA, and I expect several to pass over the next 18 months. Prediction number 6. We said more states will legalize the plant as they follow the money. I indicated non-adult use states will keep a careful eye on Colorado, California, Washington, and Oregon, all of whom had passed adult use, and that many other states would follow. Not so much for the medicinal value, unfortunately, but they just can't pass up the incremental tax revenue. Well, what's the verdict on that? Very true, as Maine, Nevada, Ohio, Michigan, Vermont, Massachusetts all passed adult use into law. When we come back, we will move on to the more typical first segment of our show, Cannabis in the Tri-State plus one. So stay with us.
Are you waking up the day after a workout, tennis match, or even a long walk just feeling it? Introducing CBDeliveryNY.com to help you live the life you know you can. They carry superior CBD made from the highest quality hemp, grown and harvested under the strictest regulations. Their sales force, certified trainers, physical therapists, and yoga teachers, all of whom have gone through rigorous education, helping them to understand what the power of plants can do for your overall wellness. So start 2020 off right. Try one of their New Year's product bundles. Go to CBDeliveryNY.com. That's CBDeliveryNY.com to find out what the power of plants can do for you.
Welcome back to NYCBD with Jeffrey Hill right here on 710 WOR Radio. As you all know, the show then becomes a podcast on virtually all podcast sites like iTunes, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. We're also available on YouTube, so you can watch the show if you'd like. We have full social media as well, all at NYCBD Official. All right, let's move on to our typical first segment, Cannabis in the Tri-State plus one. Let's begin with New York. The New York City Cannabis Industry Association, also known as the NYCCIA, tough one, will play an advocacy role in the legislative efforts to make adult use legal in the Empire State. Last year's effort on legalization began with a bill introduced by our governor, Andrew Cuomo. It ran aground amid opposition from suburban legislators and questions over whom would benefit more from the potential business opportunities. So the argument was communities that had suffered the most from the war on drugs or established operators with the money to get the industry off the ground. Deep ideological and social divides exist among the different parties, including the, quote, call for equity versus the demand for tax revenue. The association plans to hold its first hearing January 16th. Let's see if we can get this beast resolved. All right. Let's move on to New Jersey. Let's see if Flipsy has a point of view on the New Jersey governor. All right. New Jersey
just New York.
Okay.
Just New York.
New Jersey is set to make its biggest move yet toward legalizing marijuana for adult use, and new details on the plan have been released, including how cannabis could be taxed once it's available in stores. A legislative committee hearing was held Thursday, December 12th, on a plan to hold a public referendum on marijuana legalization when? In December of 2020. That's a little bit from now. The amendment would provide that all receipts from the retail purchases of marijuana would be subject to sales tax, but New Jersey towns could add their own tax as well. Governor Phil Murphy also released a statement, quote, "My belief that our current marijuana laws have failed every test of social justice and that the right course is to legalize its use by adults has not changed. I am disappointed that we are not able to get this done legislatively and that our failed status quo, which sends, are you ready for this, 600 people to jail every week for possession, will in fact continue."
Didn't he say he was going to do this within the first 100 days?
He did say that. We've mentioned that a few times, right? We're into it about 1,200 days. I guess he missed the 100-day estimate,
Just
right?
by a little bit.
All right, let's move on. As is typical, there is virtually no new news in Connecticut, which is struggling with what to do with cannabis, especially with so many of its adjacent states moving or already adult use. Think about that. Governor Ned Lamont from Connecticut, is anxious to get some of that tax money as people are just driving right over the border to Massachusetts and or driving around to some other states where they can get it, where it's fully adult use legal. The concern there is bringing it back across state line. Federally illegal. That's a problem. Yeah. All right. On with Massachusetts. A lack of access to capital will continue to hobble efforts in Massachusetts. As reported last spring, large multi-state marijuana companies tried in Massachusetts and elsewhere to gobble up more retail licenses than they were allowed by law. Their trick? Using onerous loans and management contracts that would give them effective control of seemingly independent local licenses. They've been doing this in Massachusetts for years. I grew up there, and they did that with the spirits industry, where they had a rule that nobody could have more than 4 spirits licenses. Well, guess what? My cousin had 4. So did my uncle, my aunt, and my nephew. And therefore, they got to how many? Maybe 16. Now, by the way, that's not my aunt and uncle. I was just using the example. The Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission was watching these arrangements almost from the beginning. This year, the commission said it was investigating the deals and made clear that it took a dim view of any attempts to sidestep caps on license ownership. Overall, though, equity remains elusive in the state's legal cannabis market, with the commission awarding only a relative handful of final licenses to smaller local applicants. We will keep a careful eye on this and keep you posted right here on NYCBD with Jeffrey Hill. Okay, there you have it, the latest cannabis news in the Tri-State plus Massachusetts. When we come back, we will move to a brief segment on stunning and amazing facts and get our guests' thoughts as we go through each stunner.
Are you waking up the day after a workout, tennis match, or even a long walk just feeling it? Introducing CBDeliveryNY.com to help you live the life you know you can. They carry superior CBD made from the highest quality hemp, grown and harvested under the strictest regulations. Their sales force, certified trainers, physical therapists, and yoga teachers, all of whom have gone through rigorous education, helping them to understand what the power of plants can do for your overall wellness. So start 2020 off right. Try one of their New Year's product bundles. Go to CBDeliveryNY.com. That's CBDeliveryNY.com to find out what the power of plants can do for you.
Welcome back to NYCBD with Jeffrey Hill. Don't forget, I write a blog. Hope you all reading it by now. Medium.com/@JeffreyHill2. That's Medium.com/@JeffreyHill2. All right, let's move on to the next segment of our show called Stunning and Amazing Facts. With stunner number one. Trump says he can ignore medical marijuana protections passed by Congress. We discussed this briefly a little bit ago. In a statement attached to a large-scale funding bill he signed into law recently, President Trump said, in effect, that, quote, he reserves the right to ignore, let me repeat that, ignore a congressionally approved provision that seeks to protect state medical marijuana laws from federal interference. Section 531 of the Act provides that the Department of Justice may not use any funds made available under this Act to prevent implementation of medical marijuana laws by various states and territories. All right? So the law basically says, let the states do what they want. Right? That's what it says. By calling out the medical marijuana rider, Trump is making clear that his administration believes it can broadly enforce federal drug laws against people complying with state medical marijuana laws, even though Congress told him not to do so. Seems like that's something we are doing quite frequently these days. The administration hasn't carried out any major enforcement activities against state legal marijuana businesses since taking office, in accordance with Trump's campaign pledges, where he said he would respect the right of states to enact their own cannabis laws without federal interference. It is the third time Trump has said in a significant statement that his administration doesn't necessarily have to abide by the state's medical marijuana provisions. It's a very big subject, and right now we're following states to make that decision, said Trump. Given the president's consistently voiced support for respecting state cannabis laws, it's not clear why he has gone out of his way to reserve his right to ignore the medical marijuana rider. But lack of clarity is not unusual for this president. Stunner number two. More than $3 million of marijuana was purchased on the first day of Illinois legal adult use sales, which opened their doors a few weeks ago. The state's cannabis czar, Toy Hutchinson, announced the figures during a press conference on Thursday, where she also said that there was more than 77,000 individual transactions at dispensaries across the Prairie State. One of those transactions, you'll get a kick out of this, Flipsy. Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, who's a Democrat, was among the first customers to purchase marijuana products from an adult-use shop, paying cash for clementine-flavored gummy cannabis edibles.
Good for her.
Yes, I'm sure she had a lovely evening that night. By comparison, for perspective, everyone, Michigan had only $221,000 in sales on its first day, compared to the $3.1 million in Illinois. And they only did 2,200 transactions in Michigan compared to 77,000 in Illinois. So I think that if I've got a license in Illinois, I'm pretty excited. All right, next stunner. All right, Israel-based Canadoc has entered into an agreement to import 2.5 tons of medical cannabis into Israel to address the supply chain shortage in that country. The cannabis will originate from Canadian producer Tilray's facility where? In Portugal, the company said in a news release. The first shipment is expected to arrive early this month. Israel's medical cannabis agency recently unveiled guidelines for medical cannabis exports, but approval would depend largely on whether local supplies are sufficient to meet patient demand. In case any of you are questioning the global potential of this category, perhaps this helps underscore its potential to do so. Recall, go back about 10 or 15 shows, and we had Jonathan Summers on. Jonathan was producing biomass in Africa, shipping it to Portugal to be extracted, and then introducing it into Canada. So there's another example that we talked about here on this show about the global nature of the category. And that's just the beginning. The category is doing business in over 40 countries now, and so the word global is totally appropriate for this business. Okay, on to the next stunner. You're going to love this one. Former Starbucks Canadian President Colin Moore was named CEO of Supreme Cannabis, effective when? Immediately. Which is another example of experienced, successful business people entering this space. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up our Stunning and Amazing Facts segment. When we come back, it will be my honor to make a very exciting announcement about a new brand I am launching in the space, so come on right back.
Are you waking up the day after a workout, tennis match, or even a long walk just feeling it? Introducing CBDeliveryNY.com to help you live the life you know you can. They carry superior CBD made from the highest quality hemp, grown and harvested under the strictest regulations. Their sales force, certified trainers, physical therapists, and yoga teachers, all of whom have gone through rigorous education, helping them to understand what the power of plants can do for your overall wellness. So start 2020 off right. Try one of their New Year's product bundles. Go to CBDeliveryNY.com. That's CBDeliveryNY.com to find out what the power of plants can do for you.
Welcome back to NYCBD with Jeffrey Hill. Don't forget, after the show airs, we become a podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Spotify. We also have a YouTube channel. All can be found at NYCBD Official. If you have some thoughts you'd like to give us or a direct message you'd like to send along, we have full social media. Find the one you like and shoot a note to us at NYCBD Official. Okay. I'm going to spend the next few minutes making a very important announcement. On a very personal level, I have become very committed to fitness, which stems back to my orthopedic issues I had as a child. If any of you listened to the first show, this is our 35th show, but our very first show, I explained this whole story. I had a very severe case of club feet. It kept me in the hospital for many years when I was younger. As a result, I have lived with severe pain in my feet, my knees, and my legs virtually every day when I get up. Something that my dad and many of his friends deal with as they get older, and osteoarthritis and other maladies have a way of setting in, don't they? To address my issue, I've tried everything from diet to exercise, special stretching regimens, constant workouts, and physical therapy. But it wasn't until I first studied and then eventually tried CBD every day that I began to see real progress. If you're following this show, you know my dad is 89, and he's also a committed user. His knees and ankles have never felt better. Just so I don't get into trouble, my mom, Jackie, who was on the show about 25 shows ago, she came by to say hi, is also a very satisfied daily user, which has been helping her with her declining knee, which most doctors said needed to be replaced. But at 80-something, we were all worried about potential complications. I began to think, what is the best way to bring my learning and a superior product line to the marketplace so that I could begin to share more of this with everyone out there in the listening audience, my friends and other family members? And I found the answer. Today, I am thrilled to formally launch CBDelivery, a new company consisting of fitness trainers, physical therapists, yoga teachers, chiropractors, and even some internists and GPs. These are people that are completely focused on their clients' wellness, have studied for years how to enhance client wellness, and they've all made commitments to learn about and help sell our CBD. The CBDelivery team has fully trained all of these folks on the endocannabinoid system and supplied the power of plants in the form of CBD and other plant-based wellness products for their clients, so they can experience the same results that I, my mom, dad, and hundreds of other people are now realizing. Remember what I have said on this show countless times. Big Pharma is a portfolio of products which are chemical reproductions of a plant, an herb, or a fish. CBDelivery brings you that power of plants, and I hope that you will see similar benefits almost immediately. We will carry only the best quality products. We will ensure all the rigorous testing is in place every step of the way, and we will fully train the CBDelivery team to help clients and patients understand how plant-based wellness can fit with their overall health care regimen. So we've developed a 60 and a 30-second commercial for CBDelivery. You're going to start hearing that not only on our show, but on all of iHeartRadio, because we're going to be putting a very substantial advertising push behind this. All right, let's move on for a moment if I can. I'm very excited to introduce the gentleman that's sitting to my left, whose name is Jay Contessa. We've asked him to head up the sales effort in the form of what we call our ambassador program. So all of our salespeople are indeed ambassadors. As you all know, Jay has been the head of the sales division for Unilever for over 30 years and is an expert on the sales and marketing of health and personal care products. A formal welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you.
All
nice
right.
to be here.
Welcome back, my friend.
Yep.
All right, so let's begin by sharing with our audience how you got involved with CBD, please.
Yeah, Jeff, look, your passionate story. Mine started a couple of years ago. I was working with two very innovative and creative entrepreneurs, and they educated me on the power of plants. And one of the things that was the stunner for me was they developed using CBD in skincare, and the purpose of it was for the bags under your eyes. And what they had learned is those bags under our eyes is inflammation, and their products needed to be 100% plant-based. And having CBD as that added ingredient, meeting that requirement, they saw the inflammation decrease by just using the skin cream that was now incorporated the CBD. So, we thought the inflammation was, our New Year's bender, right? And the real cause is, though, we do have that inflammation, and CBD was the remedy. So it was an eye-opener for me.
Pun intended.
Yeah, right. But I think the other thing was, you heard about CBD or THC. All these were common, not common, but we had been reading about it. But then really once you understood the power of it and the power of plants and seeing their passion, it was like, okay, there's more to this. And then obviously I met with you, and I said, this is like a deja vu here of, there's another story. And as you opened up the show, with your personal story, it even got my curiosity even going more. And, glad to be here and working with you and seeing how we can work together to bring this to a lot more folks.
Right, absolutely. So just for the benefit of the audience, I can't tell you how excited I am that Jay said yes to this opportunity. I've known Jay for 30 some odd years. I was consulting for Unilever, as many of you know, for many years, and Jay was an important part of the sales organization, and he brings a wealth of experience, knowledge, and it's really exciting to have him in the organization.
He also threw the word stunner in his...
Yeah,
he did. The unexpected stunner.
I'm paying attention.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about, you just mentioned the bags under the eyes analogy, and you and I were kind of walking in today, and you began to share with me something that is even closer to home. Why don't you share the audience that story?
Yeah, this is kind of funny. Obviously being around CBD and, what is your personal experience, and that's sometimes harder to come by. But I'll give you a story. My mom, who's 91 years young, has been dealing with a cancer, one that's, I'll say, not, as the doctor said, my job is to make sure she doesn't die of cancer. She'll die of old age, so you guys are good. But they take this, they're called the Kappa light chains, and they measure them on a regular basis. And she's been doing this for about 9 months. And so I said to my sister, hey, why don't we start Mom on some CBD? what do we have to lose? And it, may give her some extra energy or whatever. And so we did. So 3 weeks into the program, my sister sends me an email like, oh my gosh, listen to this. She goes, Mom's, and they call these chains, went from 177 in November to 68.7 in December. And it's the lowest they've been in 6 months. So we have nothing else. Nothing else has changed in her life. And so, we're excited to see what happens in, the end of January. But the only thing I can say is that she feels better. Her energy is better. And the only thing we can attribute it to is her now taking 25 milligrams of CBD a day.
That's remarkable. So, it's an interesting thing because I'm going to jump in here with my dad as well. What I want the audience to understand is we're talking about our moms and dads because, that's part of our experience. And Jay and I are a little bit older, therefore our mom and dad are a little bit older. But I can tell you, as an aside, and I'll come back to my dad's story in a minute, as an aside, that I've got several nephews that are in med school and other places. I've got several that are trying to become Broadway stars. They're in their early 20s. They're dealing with any number of challenges, both physical challenges as well as mental health challenges like anxiety and things of this nature. And they are finding quite substantial results as well. Of course, we've had a number of athletes that we've talked about on the show, right, and their inflammation management and recovery is life-changing. And I've mentioned countless times the CB12 book that came out from Tom Brady of the Patriots, of course. And he talks about pliability and, indeed, the power of plants. So, the application of this product is quite broad. Yeah. Let me come back to my dad just for a second. He called me up. Keep in mind, my dad, if you've been listening to these shows, accused me of selling heroin at one point. True statement. Because it is Schedule 1 at the federal level, and so is heroin at the federal level. That's the cannabis side, not the CBD side, of course, which is fully legal. But, hey, he didn't quite understand the differences. I know he does now. Meanwhile, after months and months and months of me sending him letters and asking him to listen to the show, he finally acquiesced and said, sure, I'll go ahead and try it, right? He had very similar results where he called me up. My dad hasn't called me up 7 times in 7 years, right? He called me up 7 times in one day, and I thought something terrible was happening. I finally get him on the phone. I said, Dad, you've called me 7 times in the last 70 minutes. What is happening? And he said, I just came back from the doctor, and he started quoting numbers not unlike the ones you're mentioning. And the doctor said to him, what have you done differently? And he said, absolutely nothing. And it wasn't until he was halfway home in the car that he called me up first time, followed by 6 more times, to let me know that maybe it is something, right? Yeah. So now we're not suggesting cause and effect, ladies and gentlemen. What we are saying is that these are anecdotal stories that clearly underscore a lot of the clinical data that we're seeing, that you can do some wonderful things with CBD in terms of impacting your own wellness. It's up to each one of you to decide how to go about it. But if you choose to make the move, we think the CBDelivery business is the way to do it, right?
I got one added thing I thought was interesting, too, because before we started her on her, my sister had brought the CBD that I had purchased to the doctor with her just to say, is this okay?
Of course, sure.
And, of course, and then, my sister, the doctor was like, hey, I would try it. She got,
wow, really?
She very, endorsed the...
Nice.
Yeah, so I was glad about that because we were going to do it anyway, I think, because...
Well, it's nerve-wracking, though, when your doctor is concerned about something you're about to take.
Right.
I can tell you that I was out in Las Vegas, and I mentioned some time ago, we had a couple of interviews, the shows that we did when we were out in Las Vegas. It was the MJ Biz show, the biggest cannabis show of the year. 37,000 people were there. I happened to go out into Las Vegas, and I looked for a plant-based store that I had heard a lot about. There was an herbalist behind the counter mixing plants and mixing herbs for people. There were 2 doctors there. Each one had 8 or 9 patients, and they were having individual herbs, including CBD, of course, being mixed, and they were prescribing them for their patients.
Yeah.
Now, for those of you who don't know, medicinal marijuana, medicinal cannabis is legal in 33 states, and we're not even talking about cannabis. We're talking specifically about CBD, which is legal in all 52. Are there 52 states? Flips? I don't think so.
Yeah,
let's go back to 50 states. Thank you very much. Legal in all 50 states. All right, let's move on. A lot of questions have been raised about the quality and testing of CBD-related product. Indeed, in New York, in Massachusetts, and some other places, there was some bans put on certain things. I don't want to get into that in any more depth, right? But what we know is quality and rigorous testing is fundamental to any healthcare product. What are you doing at CBDelivery to make a difference there?
Yeah, Jeff, as you know, safety and efficacy is fundamental in building a brand. Our years of training, mine at Unilever, this is where you separate yourself from all the others, right? If you put that rigor in and you really do what's necessary to ensure quality, to ensure that you're going to say it's 100% organic, it really is. You're not relying on somebody else. You're actually doing the testing and the groundwork on your own. And what we've developed is a great partnership with Alchemist Kitchen, and they have trained, as you know, herbalists and our teachers in this space. And it's been a benefit for our trainers and ambassadors to be trained by them to really understand all about the quality, about where it comes from, about everything that they need to know to be really, offering their clients something they feel very, very safe about delivering. And we've used our website now, when people go on there, that you can read all about our testing methodology and actually see the actual testing. And I would not buy an item unless I knew that that piece of paper was being published and in front of me before I purchased anything.
Righto. So, and what Jay is referring to is the notion of third-party testing. So virtually every state in the country now has third-party test facilities. And I mentioned the term third party because obviously if the test is being done inside the organization, there's some risk that there could be some things kind of adjusted by that organization. A third party test is basically a result that says, here's the quantification of what we saw in our testing. And of course, all the CBDelivery product is fully tested, as Jay is mentioning, with flawless results. And we're quite proud of that.
Yep.
All right, we've talked a lot about amateur and professional athletes using the product. What is CBDelivery doing to leverage this group?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, a lot of our ambassadors and trainers, like you spoke about earlier, all come from being around athletes. So the athlete is that point. Tom Brady, TB12. Those are the people that are impacted the most. Inflammation and recovery is key for them. And what we found is the speed of recovery or the benefits that CBD delivers for them, does absolutely help in, fighting that inflammation and gets them into a recovery mode a lot faster. So, and I think that's why the NHL and all these other sports entities now have brought CBD as something that they're not going to test for because they want that benefit to be a part of their lives versus, an Advil or an opiate, right? So, how do we get them off of prescribed drugs and how do we get them onto something that's naturally and plant-based?
Right up.
What a win.
Okay, so let me build on what Jay just said, all right? So I grew up in an environment where we believed anything a doctor said, and I still feel that way. Right, I'd work long and hard to find good doctors. And when I find those doctors, what they tell me to do, I do. Right?
Yep.
And Jay, you're probably like that as well.
Absolutely.
Right? Flipsinator, you're probably like that similarly, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we're not challenging the medical community in any way. What we are indeed suggesting is that you should think about adding the power of plants. And we're now giving you an offering called CBDelivery to do that, right? To add that to your wellness regimen and see if you can get the kinds of results that we are anecdotally suggesting and have been suggesting on this show countless times. Let me also bring to bear another interesting fact. You may recall that Jan Horsfall, CEO of a firm called Maxletics, has been on our show now twice. All right, Jan has 1,400 athletes across 22 governing bodies. 600 of them are ex-Olympians, right? Okay, now, many of them are called Canna athletes. Why can athletes? Because they have had similar experiences, right? They are using the product to address inflammation and recovery because they must recover quickly. Imagine an athlete. He's spending 8, 10, 12 hours a day training, and what's he doing the next day? The exact same thing, right? And then they're competing. Day 1, they're competing. Day 2, they're competing again. Day 3, they're competing again. Right? And so many of these athletes are beginning to see the value of it. We've quoted some of the big names in sports, but it's virtually any athlete, regardless if you're a CrossFit athlete or if you're an Olympic athlete or you're just a weekend golfer and you're a little bit tired after 36 holes of golf and what you want to do the next day is another 36 holes of golf.
Right.
All right, so let's move on from there. Why did you call the firm CBDelivery? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it was interesting. Obviously, when I first met with you, we were sitting around, trying to think through, what was the mission? What were we trying to get to? And it was really using the trainers or our ambassadors, as we now call them, of delivering the news of the power of plants to their clients. So it's kind of like one of those things you kept saying, if we can bring and deliver plant-based call it recommendations to the client and remedies to the client. And right now we're talking about CBD, but who knows down the road, because of what we've learned, this power of plants is very, very young at this stage. And so the opportunity to continue to deliver to our, the client is wide open for us. So it kind of made sense, like we're going to deliver plant-based, call it a remedy for, inflammation and recovery.
There you go. All right, so I agree. So I think that, obviously I keep asking Jay and I and some other very talented people have been working on this project for a year. We've been wrestling with all these issues together, but I think that unlike other situations, the brand CBDelivery, which of course has CBD in it, kind of speaks to exactly what it is. And I think when something is this new, it's worth being a little bit more specific with what the product is. All right? Okay, there you go. So is the company going to stick with a sales effort of folks like those that you mentioned, these kind of opinion leaders, these kind of thought leaders like trainers and physical therapists, etc.? Or can anyone who has an interest in understanding more about the power of plants join the effort?
Yeah, and I think that's again, each day we learn more as we go on. We started with ambassadors and that we're focused in on the training world. But what we're learning is that as we share our own experiences, people say to us, hey, how can I get this? Because my mother and father have this issue, or my uncle has this issue, or I have this issue. So I think we're going to see that people that really understand and want to learn more will be an ambassador for the brand. Because we're all seeking the same thing, right? We all want to feel better, look better, and if CBD is that added benefit that we all can receive, and and it works, I think we'd be, we want to make sure people are knowledgeable. We're going to take them through the same rigor that we took our ambassadors through, so that we are ensured that they are truly trained and understand about the endocannabinoid system. But I think it's for everybody.
Right. No, I agree. So what we've learned in the year that we've been working on this, just to build on that thought, Jay, is at first we thought we needed people that had like a birthright to speak about wellness, right? So a trainer, a physical therapist, a yoga teacher, these people are already being hired by their clients or patients, as the case may be, to talk about wellness, right? And we went in that direction. And I thought that it was exactly right. And we're going to continue to build that out.
Sure.
Right? But what we've learned is in the last year, CBD is getting a lot of time and attention, right? There's all kinds. There's a 7-part series on Netflix.
Yep.
Sanjay Gupta's got another thing going on. There's unlimited amounts of time and attention being focused on CBD, and yet it is still very confusing to the average person, right? Mm-hmm. So what we've learned is we can open up the effort to a number of people that, to Jay's point, want to learn about the power of plants, go through a training regimen, and then can certainly bring that thinking to their friends, family, and others, and can actually make a very nice living likely on the side. We're not suggesting you should make it your day job. However, I think that over time, as the power of plants becomes more and more real, you're going to see that more and more people are doing this kind of thing with my firm, with our firm, and with other firms, certainly on a full-time basis, as certainly you and I are at this point.
Right. The good news is, just I step in, is that what we've done for them is we've done all the qualifying, right? We've made sure the testing, we've made sure we're dealing with, only the best. So instead of them having to search on their own to find, is this the right product? Is it tested? Does it meet all these qualifications? We've done the work for them. So it saves them knowing that everything is safe.
Righto. And I want to thank and recognize once again Lou Sager, CEO of Alchemist Kitchen. He helped us work through a lot of these issues. We are carrying a lot of his product. His herbalists are very advanced in agronomy, agriculture, and the wellness value of the power of plants, and they've all been very helpful in putting all this together. All right, so let's move on from there, and let's talk about what are the items we are carrying in the line, Jay.
Yeah, Jeff, so we have a full line of CBD infused products, and it depends really what the trainer is recommending for their client, and that's the good news, right? We're not asking people to take something they may not need, but hey, I've got a tennis elbow. Hey, you need one of our cool soothes. Rub that on there before your tennis, after your tennis. Like my mom, she's taking 25 milligrams a day for her issue. And there's athletes and others that would be doing that same program. The good news is that the way everything is prescribed, there's a dosing chart. So you're not guessing. So people can go to the site and they can say, hey, I weigh 180 pounds. And this is the recommended dose that you should be taking. So people have good knowledge and understand what they want. But some people want a gel cap. I don't want a liquid. I want something else. So we really have a full line of products that can meet everybody's needs. And to your point, the innovation funnel is incredible. There's what we've seen, you and I, just in contacts that we've had of what people are working on is really exciting.
No, absolutely. So I guess just to summarize, it's fair to say that we have these ambassadors. The ambassadors understand the product line. Each individual, what some people might call an SKU, a stock keeping unit, what everybody else might call a size or a flavor, right, is specific to a body part or a specific indication. And I think the range of products that we are launching with kind of makes the case. But I love the fact that there's so many new things that we're going to bring to this over time. Right. Once again, leveraging the power of plants. All right, so tell our audience in the little bit of time we have remaining how they can find the new product, please.
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's CBDelivery.com. And when you open it up, you'll find everything you really need to do to make a decision. Like Jeff said, if you want to talk about a point of pain, you'll see what the recommendation is for that. If you want to learn about testing, it's all there. If you want to learn about the endocannabinoid system, it's all there. So you can educate yourself. What we encourage you is to buy. And I think once you buy and you have that experience, I think you're going to be a regular. What we've seen now from just the early indications of consumers coming back, they feel a difference, or they wouldn't come back.
No, exactly.
So, it's working the way we thought it would work.
Right. Okay. So just to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, that's CBDeliveryNY.com. So CBDeliveryNY.com. All right, Jay. Last thoughts before we go. Anything you'd like to say to the audience as a final thought?
No, I think this is we're in exciting times here. I know in my career, your career, very few times do you see something as big as this brand can be with the power that it has, and our ability to be able to source and be able to be in the forefront of this industry is extremely exciting.
I completely agree. All right, Jay, we could talk about this for quite some time, but let's just say that I enjoyed the conversation. Good luck with the launch of CB Delivery. I'll be there every step of the way, right with you. All right, when we come back, we will move to the last segment of our show, your messages, right after this.
Are you waking up the day after a workout, tennis match, or even a long walk just feeling it? Introducing CBDeliveryNY.com to help you live the life you know you can. They carry superior CBD made from the highest quality hemp, grown and harvested under the strictest regulations. Their sales force, certified trainers, physical therapists, and yoga teachers, all of whom have gone through rigorous education, helping them to understand what the power of plants can do for your overall wellness. So start 2020 off right. Try one of their New Year's product bundles. Go to CBDeliveryNY.com. That's CBDeliveryNY.com to find out what the power of plants can do for you.
Welcome back to NYCBD with Jeffrey Hill. Don't forget, we've got a full social lineup at NYCBD Official. We also have the show that turns into a podcast on iHeart, iTunes, and Spotify. There's virtually nothing we don't have, including a YouTube channel, so take a look any way you would like. Right, let's move on to the fourth segment of our show, responding to your messages. Our first and only letter today comes from John from New Jersey. John says, my son was just arrested, yes, I said that, arrested for cannabis when he was pulled over on the Garden State Parkway, which is in New Jersey, by the way, for changing lanes without using his directional.
Oh, come on.
Okay, it gets a lot worse from there. When the police came up to the car, they noticed the smell of cannabis and arrested him. He asks, what are my options? Well, John, timing is everything. As I've said on this show and many times previously, New Jersey has legalized medicinal cannabis only, not adult use. While everyone in the State House and the governor has said they want to see it made adult use legal in New Jersey, that will not be the case until the referendum is passed later this year. So if your son has a medical marijuana card, he'll be fine. If not, get an attorney and hope for a lenient judge.
Yeah.
Likely, he'll be given probation and a parole officer who he will need to see every month for 6 to 9 months. He'll be asked for a urine test on every visit. If he proves to be clean, best case, the parole officer will make a recommendation to expunge this offense from his record, and this nightmare will be behind you. We wish you nothing but the best, John.
Your son's an idiot, John.
Okay, let's move on. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show and our guest, Jay Contessa, the newly named head of sales and the ambassador effort for CB Delivery NY, CBDeliveryNY.com, that is. We'll be back next week for another 60 minutes of the critical issues facing cannabis and CBD, the financial implications, the political implications, and the societal implications. Remember, knowledge is built brick by brick. Today you got my 36th brick. Until next week, this is NYCBD with Jeffrey Hill.